This is why the Al-ansaar are the unsung heroes of Medina. The Al-ansaar were the selfless residents of Medina who opened their hearts and homes to Prophet Muhammad and his followers. Their unwavering support and generosity were pivotal in the early days of Islam. They didn't just offer help. They became the backbone of a growing community. Discover the Al-ansaar, Medina's Pillars of Support. Volume 5, Book 58, number 119, narrated by Hisham's father. The people used to send presents to the Prophet on the day of Aisha's turn. Aisha said, "My companions, that is the other wives of the Prophet, gathered in the house of Salama and said, 0 Salama, by Allah the people choose to send presents on the day of Aisha's turn and we too, love the good, that is presents etc., as Aisha does. You should tell Allah's apostle to tell the people to send their presents to him wherever he may be, or wherever his turn may be." Salama said that to the Prophet and he turned away from her, and when the Prophet returned to her, that is Salama, she repeated the same, and the Prophet again turned away, and when she told him the same for the third time, the Prophet said, "O Salama, don't trouble me by harming Aisha, for by Allah, the divine inspiration never came to me while I was under the blanket of any woman amongst you except her." Volume 5, Book 58, number 121, narrated by Aisha, the day of Bu'ath, that is day of fighting between the two tribes of the Ansar, the Aus and Khazraj, was brought about by Allah for the good of his apostle, so that when Allah's apostle reached Medina, the tribes of Medina had already divided and their chiefs had been killed and wounded. So Allah had brought about the battle for the good of his apostle in order that they, that is the Ansar, might embrace Islam. Volume 5, Book 58, number 122, narrated by Anas. On the day of the conquest of Mecca, when the Prophet had given, from the booty, the Quraysh, the Ansar said, "By Allah, this is indeed very strange. While our swords are still dribbling with the blood of Quraysh, our war booty are distributed amongst them." When this news reached the Prophet, he called the Ansar and said, "What is this news that has reached me from you?" They used not to tell lies, so they replied, "What has reached you is true." He said, "Doesn't it please you that the people take the booty to their homes, and you take Allah's apostle to your homes? If the Ansar took their way through a valley or a mountain pass, I would take the Ansar's valley or a mountain pass." Volume 5, Book 58, number 123, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet, or Abul Qasim, said, "If the Ansar took their way through a valley or a mountain pass, I would take Ansar's valley, and but for the migration, I would have been one of the Ansar." Abu Huraira used to say, "The Prophet is not unjust by saying so. May my parents be sacrificed for him, for the Ansar sheltered and helped him," or said a similar sentence. Volume 5, Book 58, number 124, narrated by Saad's father when the emigrants reached Medina. Allah's apostle established the bond of fraternity between Abdur Rahman and Saad bin Arabi. Saad said to Abdur Rahman, "I am the richest of all the Ansar, so I want to divide my property between us, and I have 2 wives, so see which of the 2 you like and tell me so that I may divorce her, and when she finishes her prescribed period, that is Ida, of divorce, then marry her." Abdur Rahman said, "May Allah bless your family and property for you. Where is your market?" So they showed him the Kainuka market. He went there and returned with a profit in the form of dried yogurt and butter. He continued going to the market, till one day he came, bearing the traces of yellow scent. The Prophet asked, "What is this scent?" He replied, "I got married." The Prophet asked, "How much mar did you give her?" He replied, "I gave her a date stone of gold or a gold piece equal to the weight of a date stone." The narrator Ibrahim is in doubt as to which is correct. Volume 5, Book 58, number 125, narrated by Anas. When Abdur Rahman bin Auf came to us, Allah's apostle made a bond of fraternity between him and Saad bin Arabi, who was a rich man. Saad said, "The Ansar know that I am the richest of all of them, so I will divide my property into 2 parts between me and you, and I have 2 wives. See which of the 2 you like so that I may divorce her, and you can marry her after she becomes lawful to you by her passing the prescribed period, that is Ida, of divorce." Abdur Rahman said, "May Allah bless you your family, that is wives for you." But Abdur Rahman went to the market, and did not return on that day, except with some gain of dried yogurt and butter. He went on trading just a few days till he came to Allah's apostle bearing the traces of yellow scent over his clothes. Allah's apostle asked him, "What is this scent?" He replied, "I have married a woman from the Ansar." Allah's apostle asked, "How much mar have you given?" He said, a date stone weight of gold or a golden date stone? The Prophet said, arrange a marriage banquet even with a sheep. Volume 5, Book 58, number 126, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Ansar said to the Prophet, please divide the date palm trees between us and them, that is emigrants. The Prophet said, no. The Ansar said, let them, that is the emigrants, do the labor for us in the gardens and share the date fruits with us. The emigrant said, we accepted this. Volume 5, Book 58, number 127, narrated by Al-Bara. I heard the Prophet saying, or the Prophet said, none loves the Ansar but a believer, and none hates them but a hypocrite. So Allah will love him who loves them, and he will hate him who hates them. Volume 5, Book 58, number 128, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, the sign of belief is to love the Ansar, and the sign of hypocrisy is to hate the Ansar. Volume 5, Book 58, number 129, narrated by Anas. The Prophet saw the women and children of the Ansar coming forward. The sub-narrator said, I think that Anas said they were returning from a wedding party. The Prophet stood up and said thrice, by Allah, you are from the most beloved people to me. Volume 5, Book 58, number 130, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Once an Ansari woman, accompanied by a son of hers, came to Allah's apostle. Allah's apostle spoke to her and said twice, by him in whose hand my life is, you are the most beloved people to me. Volume 5, Book 58, number 131, narrated by Zayd bin al-Arqam. The Anwar said, O Allah's apostle, every prophet has his own followers and we have followed you. So will you invoke Allah to let our followers be considered from us, as Ansar too? So he invoked Allah accordingly. Volume 5, Book 58, number 132, narrated by Abu Hamza, a man from the Ansar. The Ansar said, every nation has followers, and O Prophet, we have followed you, so invoke Allah to let our followers be considered from us, as Ansar like ourselves. So the Prophet said, O Allah, let their followers be considered as Ansar like themselves. Volume 5, Book 58, number 133, narrated by Abu Usaid. The Prophet said, the best of the Ansar's families, homes, are those of Banu an-Najjar, and then those of Banu Abdul Ashhal, then those of Banu al-Harith bin al-Khazraj, and then those of Banu Sa'ida. Nevertheless, there is good in all the families, houses, of the Ansar. On this, Sa'd bin Ubadah said, I see that the Prophet has preferred some people to us. Somebody said to him, no, but he has given you superiority to many. Volume 5, Book 58, number 134, narrated by Abu Usaid, that he heard the Prophet saying, the best of the Ansar or the best of the Ansar families' homes are Banu an-Najjar, Bani Abdul Ashhal, Banu al-Harith and Banu Sa'ida. Volume 5, Book 58, number 135, narrated by Abu Humaid. The Prophet said, the best of the Ansar families, homes, are the families, homes, of Banu an-Najjar, and then that of Banu Abdul Ashhal, and then that of Banu al-Harith, and then that of Banu Sa'ida. And there is good in all the families, homes, of the Ansar. Sa'd bin Ubadah followed us and said, O Abu Usaid, don't you see that the Prophet compared the Ansar and made us the last of them in superiority? Then Sa'd met the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, in comparing the Ansar's families, homes, as to the degree of superiority, you have made us the last of them. Allah's apostle replied, isn't it sufficient that you are regarded amongst the best? Volume 5, Book 58, number 136, narrated by Usaid bin Hudayr. A man from the Ansar said, O Allah's apostle, will you appoint me as you have appointed so-and-so? The Prophet said, after me you will see others given preference to you, so be patient till you meet me at the tank, that is Lake of Kauthar, on the day of resurrection. Volume 5, Book 58, number 137, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said to the Ansar, after me you will see others given preference to you, so be patient till you meet me, and your promised place of meeting will be the tank, that is Lake of Kauthar. Volume 5, Book 58, number 138, narrated by Yahya bin Sa'id. That he heard Anas bin Malik when he went with him to Al-Walid, saying, once the Prophet called the Ansar in order to give them the territory of Bahrain, they said, no, unless you give to our emigrant brethren a similar share. On that he said, if you do not agree to it, then be patient till you meet me, for after me, others will be given preference to you. Volume 5, Book 58, number 139, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle said, "There is no life except the life of the hereafter. So, O Allah, improve the state of the Ansar and the Muhajirun." And Anas added that the Prophet also said, "O Allah, forgive the Ansar." Volume 5, Book 58, number 140, narrated by Anas bin Malik. On the day of the Battle of the Trench, that is Ghazwat ul-Khandaq, the Ansar used to say, "We are those who have given the pledge of allegiance to Muhammad for jihad, that is holy fighting, as long as we live." The Prophet replied to them, "O Allah, there is no life except the life of the hereafter, so please honor the Ansar and the emigrants." Volume 5, Book 58, number 141, narrated by Saul. Allah's apostle came to us while we were digging the trench and carrying out the earth on our backs. Allah's apostle then said, "O Allah, there is no life except the life of the hereafter, so please forgive the emigrants and the Ansar." Volume 5, Book 58, number 142, narrated by Abu Huraira. A man came to the Prophet. The Prophet sent a messenger to his wives to bring something for that man to eat, but they said that they had nothing except water. Then Allah's apostle said, "Who will take this person or entertain him as a guest?" An Ansar man said, "I." So he took him to his wife and said to her, "Entertain generously the guest of Allah's apostle." She said, "We have got nothing except the meals of my children." He said, "Prepare your meal, light your lamp, and let your children sleep if they ask for supper." So she prepared her meal, lighted her lamp, and made her children sleep, and then stood up pretending to mend her lamp, but she put it off. Then both of them pretended to be eating, but they really went to bed hungry. In the morning the Ansari went to Allah's apostle, who said, "Tonight Allah laughed or wondered at your action." Then Allah revealed, "But give them, emigrants, preference over themselves even though they were in need of that. And whosoever is saved from the covetousness, such are they who will be successful." 59.9, Volume 5, Book 58, number 143, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Abu Bakr and Al-Abbas passed by one of the gatherings of the Ansar who were weeping then. He, that is Abu Bakr or Al-Abbas, asked, "Why are you weeping?" They replied, "We are weeping because we remember the gathering of the Prophet with us." So Abu Bakr went to the Prophet and told him of that. The Prophet came out tying his head with a piece of the hem of a sheet. He ascended the pulpit which he never ascended after that day. He glorified and praised Allah and then said, "I request you to take care of the Ansar as they are my near companions to whom I confided my private secrets. They have fulfilled their obligations and rights which were enjoined on them, but there remains what is for them. So, accept the good of the good doers amongst them, and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 144, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle, in his fatal illness, came out wrapped in a sheet covering his shoulders, and his head was tied with an oily tape of cloth till he sat on the pulpit, and after praising and glorifying Allah he said, "Then after, O people, the people will go on increasing, but the Ansar will go on decreasing till they become just like salt in a meal, so whoever amongst you will be the ruler and have the power to harm or benefit others, should accept the good of the good doers amongst them, and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 145, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "The Ansar are my near companions to whom I confided my private secrets. People will go on increasing, but the Ansar will go on decreasing, so accept the good of the good doers amongst them and excuse the wrongdoers amongst them." Volume 5, Book 58, number 146, narrated by Al-Bara. A silken cloth was given as a present to the Prophet. His companions started touching it and admiring its softness. The Prophet said, "Are you admiring its softness? The handkerchiefs of Sa'd bin Mu'adh in paradise are better and softer than it." Volume 5, Book 58, number 147, narrated by Jabir. I heard the Prophet saying, "The throne of Allah shook at the death of Sa'd bin Mu'adh." Through another group of narrators, Jabir added, "I heard the Prophet saying, the throne of the Beneficent shook because of the death of Sa'd bin Mu'adh." Volume 5, Book 58, number 148, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Some people, that is the Jews of Bani bin Qurayza, agreed to accept the verdict of Sa'd bin Mu'adh, so the Prophet sent for him.